What's going on, Zach?
What's up, Steve?
We're in my backyard talking to Zach here. Um, First time we've had someone interviewed in our backyard.
This is not RBMA Fireside Chat. This is the Steve Centrific Daylight Fireside
Stealing that shit. So, you're back. A few weeks ago, I got a call one morning, and you're like, I'm back. I'm home.
Chat. Yeah.
What made you decide to come back here for this?
Sure.
And you know, what was it like getting back?
Sure. You know, it was weird coming back here because I kind of had a chance to already see what was happening here in Europe at like a schedule 2 weeks ahead of what was happening here. So I was already hitting my gigs and traveling around and watching countries kind of shut down as I was leaving them like 5-6 days later. I kept looking ahead thinking I would stay ahead of it because I had some tours planned that would take me to South America and then bring me back to Minneapolis. And at some point, everything just dropped out. And I realized I had to make a quick decision. Do I stay in Europe or do I come back here? And for me personally, I kind of made the decision to come back here because this is my home. Outside of the fact that I'm living in Europe, this is my home. And my family, my friends, if my mom's watching, what's up, Mom?
Hi, Mom.
You know, hi, Mom. So the thing is, you know, having the opportunity to be here amongst friends, have a local community, have a local scene, being able to do this, these are things that I didn't have in Europe. And as much as my career lives over there, this is where I feel comfortable for the long run if I have to be trapped or if I'm stuck. So I think just coming back here was like a natural thought for me, you know?
Perfect. I'm glad.
Yeah, me too.
We're glad to have you here.
Me too. Me too.
What have you been doing since you got back?
Sure. So, you know, right off the bat, like I've seen a lot of people kind of jump in and try to do music full on, the streaming full on. And I actually kind of went the opposite direction. I decided to take advantage of some things I could do away from music right away because in my head, I don't see this as like a short change or a short moment in time. I think this is going to be a little bit. And so I wasn't in a rush to jump at anything. I took the opportunity to find things to do away from music. And even in some sense, it's still in music with like the Future Classic space.
Yeah.
You know, we were supposed to have a party last weekend. And every couple of years, people who've been coming to the party for a while now, they know that every couple of years I do some changes and I don't tell anyone. And then suddenly you come to the next party and we have hardwood floors. The video wall's moved. The sound is adjusted. Something has changed. And without giving away too much, because I still want it to be a surprise in the future, we had a big change happening at the space. And we were deep in construction getting ready for the party that was supposed to happen last week. So luckily, I had something to jump into, get my hands dirty, have somewhere to go every day. You know, we have a locked warehouse. It's not open to the public. It was a safe place for me to go and work with a couple other people in 4,000 square feet of space and keep away from each other. So I got my hands dirty and did some construction, and I can't wait to be able to show everyone what we did. But it's going to be a little bit.
I saw it.
Yeah, Steve, you got a little teaser, but even since you've been there, more has gotten done. And I decided.
Well, it's epic sick already. What I saw.
I appreciate it. I mean, I just took this attitude of like, let's get it done. I'd rather get it done and be ready for the moment we can come out of this and have the opportunity to use the space instead of just sit on some unfinished project or even give up on it. And I've had a few people kind of ask me like, how long can you sit this out?
That was my next question.
Yeah. I mean, we've sat out worse things at Future Classic. Not worse things, but things that took a while. We had some pretty unscrupulous neighbors a couple times. We had some. I mean, I've been at that.
I remember a good 6 or 8 months where you didn't throw a party.
There was 9 months. It was the longest that we didn't do a party. And
the biker gang.
The biker gang upstairs, and there's been other things. And I mean, we've been at that space for 11 years, and I'm not about to let it go. And even if I have to go into debt to hold on to it, the reality is, and even like when you asked me why I came back, this is something that I thought about a lot. I'm in a really unique position, and I think anyone who has a local community and like a local scene, the world could fall apart around us, but I can come back to Minneapolis and I can do these parties and I can have a local base here that a lot of, I think, touring DJs have either lost or never had in the countries they come from, because they weren't built around local scenes. They were just built to like get big and have big parties and bring big names, and that was what they kind of looked towards. And here,
I 100% agree, man.
yeah, and here we don't. That wasn't ever our goal. We have a self-sustaining thing here. Like, we can get 350 people to come out for a locals party. You add a headliner, you might get 50 or 100 more people, but you could totally survive without headliners here. And so, being here, holding on to Future Classic, and being ready to go the moment we can, is something that not only for like my career I can fall back to, but also it's something that I enjoy doing. Whether I have travel restriction or not, I can play here and I can be totally fulfilled with that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, keeping the space going, sitting on it as long as I have to, whether that be 6 months, whether it be a year, whatever the reality might be of the situation. And I'm not a scientist. I have no answers. But I do think there's going to be...
All the DJs are scientists now.
Everyone's a fucking scientist, and everyone has an opinion. And, I mean, I have my opinions from, like, observing things and seeing what's happening, but I don't know. Things can change next week. Things could change next month. And, like, I'm observing things from a global perspective because I had to before this happened. So I'm seeing what's happening in other parts of the world. I'm watching other countries have different rules to other places, and there's things being tested, like clubs opening up in South Korea this weekend that I used to play at. You know, our government's a little more loose, so I think things are going to take longer here. And I think entertainment, as much as I know none of us want to hear it, entertainment, unfortunately, will be the last thing to come back because it's the biggest health and safety issue. And until bars and clubs can go back to some type of normalcy, we can't risk doing an underground party either. It's not safe. It's not morally the thing I want to have riding on my shoulders. Same. You know, so I mean, finding ways like this to connect, the stream you guys are doing, like I said, having the local community is huge. And I've always propped up Minneapolis in my travels and in my interviews, but this is why, because I can come home and have Minneapolis.
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought that was a problem with a lot of these, especially like the young DJs who are always trying to come over here from Europe and whatever. It's like, I feel like a lot of them don't really have like that local base.
No, they all move to like the big hubs.
Yeah.
And try to make themselves something individually. And
I'm always looking for the story though.
Yeah, and there's kind of a story missing. And like I said, I have this opportunity that not to fall back on, because even while I've had my touring career, I've kept my connection with Minneapolis. So it's not even a fallback. It's that I have this, plain and simple, period.
I mean, beyond like what you've done here with this, you know, the obvious things with Future Classic and stuff. I mean, you pretty much set all of us up with sound systems that we purchased from you, and like that has spread things, made things move here these last 5 years, especially. You know,
it's taken things up a notch.
We do have something that's local and good and sustainable on some level, you know.
I mean, I don't even think on some level. I think on like a very proper level here.
Yeah.
We sustain without needing the outside world here.
Yeah.
So even no matter what happens in other parts of the world, no matter what happens even in other states, the moment our state allows us to do it again, we're good. Like we're good. Yeah. We have supporters, we have infrastructure, we got sound, we got venue, and we'll find other places and things will change. But I think we're good. Like, we're in a really good position to see this through and come out the other side.
So, I know you kind of switched gears in the last few days. You assembled a makeshift fort studio over at the building. Yeah. And what do you tell me about that? And what do you have planned project-wise? Releases or mixes, or what are you going to be working on?
Yeah, so I decided, since I'm going to be here for the inevitable future right now because I can't travel, or even when I might be able to travel, I might bounce back and forth between Minnesota and Berlin and just kind of get a change of scenery. But when I'm here, I need to be able to stay active and keep working, not just for career stuff, but just for like personal anxieties. I need to get music out of my system. And I go through spurts where I produce or sit down and focus on production for like a month or 6 weeks at a time when I take breaks away from touring. And I had just had a 6-week break in January, and then last summer I had one, and I'm sitting on a pile of tracks that I had written, and I was just about to release them. But I don't want to release them just yet because I want to now that we've stopped, I mean, I wanted to have chance to play those and try those out on dance floors, and I don't want to hastily just release them now. But I also, so like what you said, I built this quick little makeshift studio in the warehouse, and I basically describe it to anyone right now as it looks like a 5-year-old built a fort with really nice speakers in it. You know, and I borrowed MIDI controllers from friends. I got a monitor, an extra screen, you know, everything I needed. And luckily I had a bunch of connections through Dropbox that I had backed up my studio tracks from Berlin. So it was easy for me to just tap in. And the last week, finally, I've been balancing doing less construction at the space and focusing some energy back into music and getting excited about it again. So like even when we finish this, I'm gonna go work tonight and find something to do with myself. And having the space to go work on, having the purpose of writing music and all these things have kept me sane in this whole thing. Like I feel for everyone who's stuck in their house and really has nothing to do, because I know I'd lose my fucking mind. And
Yeah.
so being able to go to the warehouse and whether it be get my hands dirty or like work on music, it just gives me a purpose every day to get up and do something.
So what's quarantine look like for the DVS1 when he's not at the studio or at the warehouse right now? What's going on?
Lots of phone calls, lots of FaceTime. I thought I'd be watching more Netflix, but I can't really say that I have. I've actually brought myself to exhaustion almost every day. So it's been really good to come back, cook dinner, whatever, eat a meal, and just pass out after I talk with people and catch up with people. I will say I've never been on the phone this much in my life. Like I'm not having face-to-face conversations with people as much anymore. So everything is relying on FaceTime and phone calls. I've never spent this much time on the phone. I mean, maybe in high school I did, but as a grown adult, I've never spent this much time on the phone. And it's still nice, like I'm connecting with everyone, but I prefer like this. Like even when you called me, what did I tell you? I was like, I don't want to do any live stream interview. I want to see face to face.
Yeah.
Because we could still be responsible and like see each other and hang out with each other. And I'm even trying to tell people locally that I've like talked to, I said, hey, we could still see each other. We can't gather in large groups, but there's no reason, especially now that the weather's getting better, why we can't like cure our insanity right now and meet with each other and
hang
sit
out in the backyard,
getting ashes
get
blown at us
in our faces, and
but we can hang out and we can cure our insanity by like spending a little time person to person with people, you know. And like I've been inviting friends to come to the warehouse and come see it, you know, with private little tours, and it's been good. Like they all expressed to me how thankful they are that they're out of the house right now, just to come even for a few hours.
yeah.
Yeah.
So back to the little music stuff. About a year ago, you made a statement about not wanting to be a part of big festivals anymore. And then last fall, you hosted the SOS panel at AID.
ADE, yep.
And one of the topics was looking to the future, building a scene versus growing an industry, which is something that like definitely is in my interest. What's your outlook on where things go from here, and will they ever be the same?
Sure.
How do you feel about the inevitable changes that are going to come for festivals and clubs in the next couple years? And do you think it kind of actually maybe brings things back to a level that is what you were talking about in the first place?
I mean, I think Ghetto already made the joke somewhere. He made the joke either on like the MN Vibe forum or one of the other forums on Facebook, and he's like, prove me wrong, DVS1 started the virus to stop festivals.
I did see that.
Yeah. So that was totally Ghetto. It's true. I did it. So for anyone who doesn't know what SOS is, just look up supportorganizesustain.org. And I started this group a year ago with a group of people, and then we did a big panel day. All the content is up. Unfortunately, the big launch of the content literally happened the week that the world shut down with entertainment and everything. And it kind of went unnoticed, and we're still thinking about how to relaunch it again so people can take notice of the content we created, because I think we put in a lot of work. It's not for me to judge whether we did a good job or not, but we put in a lot of work. And we had a lot of interesting topics, a lot of good people talking about everything from drug policy to festivals to, like you said, industry and scene to marginalized communities, to as many things as we could cover in that day. And all the info's out there, all the videos are out there. When it comes to what's going to happen, I mean, I could talk about this for hours, even though we only have so much time, but
we got a while.
Yeah, we got a while. So the thing is, like with the scene, it's exactly what I just said about coming back home and having a scene to go to. I mean, this is definitely going to affect traveling culture, headliner culture, financial structures. There's going to be a lot of venues that might fold because of this. Potentially festivals might have to change how many people they can gather with, at least for the time being, if they're even allowed to reopen. But the one positive that I see out of this whole thing that I keep pointing out to people, as much as it might be a deterrent for like my global travels and my ability to, keep a touring career, I'm really hoping that this starts to grow local scenes again. Because when clubs reopen, does anyone really need to book a headliner and spend a bunch of money? The reality is we have a lot of amazing locals in a lot of territories around the world who have never had the chance to shine. And those people now will be able to pack a club because people are just hungry to go out after all this insanity of sitting indoors and isolating. And I'm really hoping the one positive effect of it is that local communities, local scenes, local DJs get more love and more opportunity, and bringing in headliners and guests is a treat versus a necessity. Because like I said, we survive here with locals. A headliner here is a treat. It's not a necessity. And in a lot of places around Europe, they build themselves around headlining cultures. So every weekend it's a headliner. And their locals are either doing the early slot, maybe the late slot, maybe the after party slot, but all the love goes to the headliners. And again, as good as it is for my career, it's not sustainable. It's not real. So this whole industry versus scene, in the positive effect of this, I think maybe some places will realize that they actually have a scene, or they need to grow a scene when they get out of this.
Yeah.
And like what you're doing right now, and like what I posted today on my page that made it to no one because Facebook clogged my reach. But it was, like kudos to you for doing this, because you've taken the role of like being the local promoter, at least in the techno scene and that kind of area, of doing weeklies, doing monthlies, continuing to connect people. So even right now, like, I'm not you anymore in that role. So I couldn't put this together. I wouldn't have even come to me to do this. But I'm super supportive that you're doing it, and I'm like really happy to see people's comments, and I was checking it out earlier, and I'm happy to be able to jump in and be a part of that.
Yeah, we're really happy we're here to do it. Last question for you. If everything tanks,
yes,
you don't get to be the DVS1 anymore, what are you going to do for a job? I don't know what I'm going to do.
Lock myself in Future Classic. Bomb. When the zombie apocalypse comes, I'll just lock myself in there. And anyone else who wants to join, you're more than welcome to come until we hit capacity. I don't know. I mean, I've always been a hustler, so I don't doubt that even if something like this fell apart, we'd find a way to hustle through it. And the reality is, even if everything fell apart and maybe the global DVS1 persona disappeared, again, I'll fall back on this one, because this one's all existed before that, and I'll just come back to this one, and I'll be content. I'll miss traveling. I'll miss some of those opportunities, but we've got enough going on here.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's going to happen. I do think that, and you asked me that earlier, and maybe I didn't have a chance to clearly answer that, was I do think that things will go back to some bit of normalcy. Of course, right now it doesn't seem like it. But the reality is, and I said this to somebody earlier, and this is the only thing I'll make comment on about my perspective on this. Whether you believe this was made through animals, through humans, through biolabs, through governments cheating us and lying to us. The reality is, at least in my perspective, it got out of hand, and it's affecting everyone, and it's in everyone's best interest to get us back to normal as soon as possible. And I believe that, regardless of my opinion of how it happened. And so I do have faith that at some point this will go back and we will be able to congregate and we will have Future Classic and we will have communion and we will have the party that was supposed to happen this weekend, and all the other things will come back. It might be staggered, it might be unsure, it might not be clear right now, but I do have faith that it will.
So I got a few questions from everybody else here.
Yes.
Mitchell wanted to know what the most cringe moment of hanging out with Steve was, but we're not going to go there.
We're not going to go there.
We aren't going to go there.
I don't kiss and tell.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Kyle King, he wants to know if you've heard of KyleKingMusic.com.
Who's Kyle King? Just kidding, Kyle.
Let's see. I think this was from Ryan. Ask Zach if he wants to buy a Kajunga record. Only $10.
I got you guys all day long. So somebody just remind me. Somebody send me a text who's got my number. Just remind me, and I will hit Bandcamp later, and I will buy all the records all day long to support the homies. You guys are doing really, really, really cool shit, and you guys already know I support you guys.
They have been doing great.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Nikki Kitts wanted to know what your favorite animal is and if you have any pets.
Unfortunately, I'm allergic to dogs and cats, but I used to have cats. I had a lot of wild cats.
You had a turtle once.
I had a huge African tortoise.
Yeah.
In my apartment on Tyler Street. That's a really long story. That's for
that
interview
was
part
wild.
2. That's for interview part 2. I like anything, and this is gonna sound really corny.
That was you going on a tangent.
That was way tangent. Somebody called me up and said they had an African tortoise and needed to bring it somewhere, and I happen to have a big warehouse. So I was like, bring it over here, and we built like an entire pond, 25 foot by 25 foot, like.
It was like a zoo.
African tortoise living area. I don't even know. It was crazy. I had it for like 2 months.
Yeah, and then the owners.
Yeah, the owner came back driving a brand new truck, told me he was broke and couldn't afford to give me anything for all the work I did to keep his tortoise alive. Meanwhile, he pulls up in like a $30,000 truck. There goes all the money I spent on the tortoise, but I gave it back to him. I mean, animals, I love anything little and furry. And like even my friend Brent, who I'm staying with right now, they just got a new puppy. And I'll just take allergy medicine and pet that puppy all day long. Like I really don't care. It's worth it. You know, I love animals.
Man.
It's totally therapeutic.
So did we get the favorite animal then?
Anything little and furry. I mean, like baby animals of any sort. I remember even going to like the petting zoo here and looking at like baby raccoons. What's the big petting zoo over by the
Fonderosa?
Fonderosa.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the little baby raccoons.
Oh, baby raccoons.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
So baby anything, they might turn out to be like the most vicious, nasty things in the world, but when they're babies, they're cute. Yeah. All animals are cute when they're babies.
Dan Cortez, he wants to know when you're taking him out for sushi again.
Never. Dan owes me for a sushi dinner. Fun fact, Dan has been vegan since I took him out to sushi however many years ago. It was like 14 years ago. He was at Vital Vinyl on a Saturday morning. I called him up. I said, I want sushi. He let me take him out to sushi. In the middle of the day, I dropped a bunch of cash on him, and then he became vegan after that and never paid me back for that sushi. Ever. So, Dan, you owe me.
Oh, amazing. Oh, let's see here. If you're constructing Mr. Tuttle wants to know if you were constructing a secret base, would you go with an undersea pod system or a classic volcano?
I'm a little claustrophobic, so I think the undersea might get to me, but I'm down for the volcano.
All right, who we got? I don't know who asked this one. Each city can be different in terms of vibe that you might think you want to play, but what is a kind of set or sound you haven't really played out as much that you would love to play? Which city would it be?
I can't really say which city. I mean, there's definitely some cities that I know align with my perspective or have a crowd that are open to hear what I do and are very open-minded. And this is why I like to play all-night sets, because the early music, the late night music, like I know how to play techno. It's what I know how to do. I've already done it for years. And I grew up and have a collection of all kinds of music. So the chances I get to play other music is the stuff I really, really genuinely look forward to and thoroughly enjoy. I mean, I've talked to a lot of other techno DJs that were like, yeah, I mean, I could play an opening, but it's not what I want to do. And I get the chance to play the main slot so often that I really cherish the moments that I don't, because I get to play all this music that I collect and that I have and that I find that
the House Proud set.
What's up?
That House Proud set.
Sure, yeah, like House Proud, you know, just random stuff. And like being able to come to communion, you know, the last time I did it, I remember, and it sucks that we didn't get a chance to do the all communion set last year, but hopefully the next time we get the chance to do communion, maybe we can come back and do a full day of something, and I get a chance to explore and go left and right.
Yeah, we'll do it for sure. We only got a couple minutes left here, but what's the most important? In-Shift Music wants to know, what's the most important thing you want younger generations just exploring techno and rave culture for the first time to know?
I mean, I said it at the end of my infamous Festivals Are Ruining the Scene video, if you haven't seen that either. But I basically just said, you know, I think anyone who gets into this culture just needs to know that it's more than a fad and actually take the time. It's not about like knowing your history. It's not about comparing what's better, what's good then, what's better now, or whatever. It's just about respecting that this is more than just some boom boom music. I mean, there's actually a culture, a group of people that, like, they're lifers. This is their life. They do a lot. They sacrifice a lot. They come from different stories and different backgrounds. And so I just think realizing and taking it for what it is and looking at it a little bit deeper is, whether it be from a music, culture perspective, whatever perspective it might be, just take the time to give it that respect, and then you'll understand it and a little bit more intimately. And then I think inevitably that how you treat it will be better because of that.
Yeah, I think that even kind of leads back into that other question about the cities or whatever, is kind of respecting like all the different little periods of dance music. And
every city has its culture, like,
scenes
and history.
Yeah.
You know, like so many cities I travel to, when I ask them, like, so how long has electronic music been going on here? And they're like, man, we had a booming scene early 90s, late 80s. It dipped for a while, but then it came back. But these people all have history. Like every scene and culture has a very parallel history. Maybe not the same rules, guidelines, and issues that we had, but they have the history like we do too.
I think we're starting to hear more about them too, other than just say like Detroit, Berlin, New York, LA, or what, you know.
The biggest question when I travel the world, people are like, you're from Minnesota. How do you know so much about music? I'm like, get over yourself. You know, I'm like, get over yourself.
Man, we got Prince.
We got Prince. We got a lot of stuff.
Still no self-respecting techno person that doesn't have some sort of respect.
Yeah, you got Prince in your city? No, you don't.
Yeah.
How we doing on time? 1. We got another minute or 2. You got any other questions on there?
You know, I don't know if I got it. Let's see here.
Sorry, we're not
That
going
was going to be our the end of it there. Let's see. Do you still make time to dance?
When I DJ, I wiggle, I shake, I sweat, and I guess that's probably the closest I come to dancing. Unfortunately, I've had 2 knee surgeries, so fully getting down on the dance floor is difficult for me. It hurts. I mean, I'm 43. I'm not a young buck anymore, but I definitely don't lose touch with the wiggle when I'm in the DJ booth. So I consider that my active dancing when I'm working.
God's Drugs wants to know what's Zach's favorite swear?
Fuck.
Yeah.
And with that, we're done. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, man.